Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome back to the show. We've got a great guest for you today. We have Troy West, and he's the president of Lifestyle Financial Planning. And West is the first person to ever expose retirement as a brand or idea that the government, large corporations, and investment companies use to systematically control the general population for their economic and power advantage. And he calls this phenomenon the retirement myth. And he states this has been institutionalized into American society for over 200 years. And he has exposed the facts that only 1% of the general population live a better lifestyle at age 65, and that the retirement myth was set up that way on purpose. Troy, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Alan. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, you're welcome. We're excited to have you. So let's just get right into it. Tell us a little bit more about your business and what types of clients that you're helping.
Yeah, well, as your intro stated, and I appreciate that, our focus as a company is really about lifestyle, and what we mean by that is, really being able to become as much as you can starting today, as opposed to deferring time, money, and passion for another day. So we work with quite a range of audience as far as what people want to do in terms of lifestyle can be a range. And so we really spend our time initially just talking to everyday people about what it is that really drives them. A lot of times people are coming in talking about symptoms of challenges like getting out of debt or saving more money, buying a home, helping kids with college, whatever it may be. But a lot of times we're talking about just the challenge of the money, and we really dig in deep into everything that really drives a person today and make that matter before the money matters.
Yeah, people think that they have to wait till they're 65, and my goodness, some of them might not be able to enjoy that if you wait that long.
Yeah, I might not be able to enjoy that. Statistically, a lot of people are either dead or dead broke by the time they're 65, and that's kind of what actually led us into what the retirement myth is all about. As you stated, 1% are not living a better lifestyle by 65, and that can be after working 40 years. And so that's how this concept of, we call it the lifestyle secret, came about. Because we want to really be able to inspire people to do what they want today.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great mission. How did you get started doing this, Troy?
Well, long story short, I would say the process probably started a little before 2008. So 2006, 2007, I happened to be living in Southern California at the time in San Diego. And you could see 2008 writing on the wall where I happened to be. I mean, there was whole neighborhoods going out with houses being foreclosed upon, people struggling to have jobs, losing assets, you name it. And right around that time was actually when I happened to be leaving to graduate from college. And there's a lot of people talking to me as far as possibly recruiting me for larger companies to talk about retirement. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking around me and I'm saying, these whole neighborhoods are going out, and I've seen some pretty successful people, quote unquote, in most of our minds just really lose a lot. And I'm thinking, I don't think I can talk about retirement. There's got to be another way that makes more sense. And it was interesting because the other road at the time happened to be a road that included personal development and really talking about lifestyle. So you heard a number of people that I believe were influential all the time saying, this is the best time to buy different things, because different assets, because they were cheap. But also, what was even more intriguing was I saw people living the way I wanted to live. I wanted to be able to travel the world and be in control of my time. And so obviously that was a road that I followed. And then throughout that process up to today, I've really been ingrained with part of my background with social science and understanding how institutions are really working. So I've talked to a number of financial professionals. I've looked over the history of what's been going on in America, how banks work, how rules are written, tax codes, and just really canvassing a lot of different territory across the country, especially over the last couple of years, just getting a sense of what are people thinking, feeling, experiencing, and how does that relate to how we're taught generally about money and how we're conditioned generally by these larger institutions, so financial, non-financial companies, Uncle Sam. And what we're finding is that time and money is generally taught to favor these institutions. And it doesn't mean that we're not always thought about, but we're generally second to what these institutions are really trying to accomplish, which is maximizing profit off of our time and energy. And what we found is that a lot of people, regardless of where you may be in terms of financial or lifestyle success, in your mind is being able to save more money, have more time, and really take the way that these institutions have been teaching us and kind of reverse the cycle in our favor so we can function like banks, for example, rather than have to depend upon them, save more dollars in taxes, really think more in detail about what it is we're trying to accomplish in terms of lifestyle, as opposed to just thinking about where we're at with our income and assets and kind of reacting to that. And so kind of summing this all down, our real mission here is for people to not only live their lifestyle, but feel like they're in control of their lifestyle and their environment around them, as opposed to, reacting and feeling limited to conditions.
Interesting. So you're talking about some techniques or tactical things that people can do, but do you talk about either mindset or the way people think about their financial situation? Is that ever brought up?
That's interesting. In fact, yes, that's probably the most surprising piece, I would say, that we do in terms of consultations and classes and so forth is, we kind of come in with this premise that money doesn't matter until you know what it's for. Just like you got to have food and water, you got to have money. It's something we all got to have. And so, a lot of times it's surprising to people that that's the first thing we'll push them on. So if someone tells me, hey, Troy, my number one goal is that I want to eliminate debt, I might chuckle or I look them in the eye and say, you know what, that's great. That's something that a lot of people are facing. You don't want to have debt. But let's just imagine for a second that debt didn't exist. And this is just an example. What would you do if money and time didn't matter? Mm-hmm. Pick an amount of money. Say you had an extra $50,000 or $100,000. If I asked you what you would do, would you answer that differently? If money and time didn't matter, what would you do every single day from the time you woke up, time you went to bed, or even over the course of a year? The different kinds of things you would want to do, contribute to. How would you spend your time with your friends and family? Mm-hmm. And I think that just helps people get a lot of more clarity as to what is meaningful to them, because there's always solutions, but if we don't know what it is that we're really trying to accomplish first, there's really not a conversation. And once you really start digging, getting deeper, that's where you get more excited. And I think the ability for people to slow down and really think about what it is they want and get that conviction and imagination behind themselves. Oh, there are more possibilities. Then, money actually becomes the easy part to talk about.
That's awesome. So along the way, I love asking this question of the entrepreneurs that I interview. Was there a book that inspired you along the way that sticks out?
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's several of them, I would say. Napoleon Hill, a lot of his books have been very helpful. The Law of Success. I would say most of Tony Robbins' books have been very impactful. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I'm actually sitting here in front of a bunch of books right now, so what else? I would say The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss is another good one.
Nice. Yeah, those all make the list when they answer the question, so that's good. Thanks for sharing that with us. So I've read your background, and what really drives you and gets you up out of the bed every morning to help people?
I think it's just the ability or just to be a small fraction of people's lives where they really get to put more of a smile on their face because they're able to do more than they thought they probably could. And that can come from a number of ways, but I think just to sleep at night knowing that, this person came to me and, maybe they thought it was going to take longer or felt limited, and, we got through a process in a time expectation that they really didn't have. And just hearing, kind of the stories, everyone has a story, so you kind of get to live through other people in a number of areas through their own stories and really seeing them succeed, really is part of what fulfills me.
So what is your definition of succeed? I mean, people think that success is $1 million in the bank, but that's far from it. So what would be an example of somebody succeeding?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say a lot of it is probably dependent upon what each individual's values are. So if someone tells me that this is what I'm really trying to accomplish, then seeing them accomplish whatever that is to them is what's great. But, even taking it a step further, I would say the way I see success personally and with what a lot of people have expressed from going through different experiences is really the congruency of living one's values. So anything in life, that can mean health, spiritually, mental growth, financially, just having that constant improvement with whatever one's core values are. And generally, the three main ingredients that I happen to see that are common are just aligning time, money, and passion. So, money and time, I would say, are kind of what exaggerates what our passions are. And so just the ability to constantly involve what our passions are, whatever they may be, contributing, being inspirational to others, doing certain activities. That would be kind of a nutshell of how I see success.
Nice. Well, we're probably familiar with, how schools teach us. I mean, I can't remember any kind of financial training in school, and I went to a private school. It's probably there, but I just can't remember. It was so long ago. But what are you finding to be the biggest challenge from people, in the marketplace that's preventing them from having this success or this satisfaction?
I would say the number one challenge is probably what you probably just said there indirectly with your question is just a general awareness. I think when we are living in a world that seems like, anyway, it keeps going faster and faster, and we have social media now in addition to television, and we see everyday life, we don't really have a lot of time to slow down and realize what our resources are. And a lot of times, whatever our resources are, we kind of take for granted of what's just around us or the lack thereof. And so I think the biggest piece is, okay, well, if there's symptoms to a root problem, being aware of what that root problem is. And as you mentioned, we call that the retirement myth, which is, again, the influence of the economy, with us kind of being secondary. And when I say us, that's just Americans as a whole. And so if we can really understand that everything that we really do financially, everything from school, as you mentioned, a lot of times it's different for other people, but I know for me, that was probably one of my biggest surprises once upon a time, is I had a mentor tell me that he would help guide me to getting to college, but he told me that you're going to learn a lot more on your own in life as opposed to college. And it really shocked me, because I always thought, I'm going to go be a teacher or a coach or something rather, where I was, going to have a job of some kind. And, jobs are great, but what I think was interesting is I realized that there were controls in place no matter what direction I went. So there was limitations to the things that I wanted to do, and in a sense of the job setting, quote unquote. And so being able to teach and coach in conjunction to a playing field that allowed a lot more opportunity was a big awakening for me. And you can take a timeline, an economic timeline or a life timeline from birth until death. I mean, just a quick analysis is 0 to 18. We are dependent a lot of times upon parents. And then as soon as we hit the threshold of being an adult, quote unquote, that's when we get bombarded with credit cards, and generally a lot of times we're not aware of what they are or how they function, and we have debt. We're taught to go to school. Student loans are a big piece of a lot of people's challenge initially, and then, even if we don't have student loans, then the next thing is cars and mortgages. Mortgages can be about a third of one's budget a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And then, even if you get all those things paid down, or, are really doing great in terms of revenue in a business or income personally, once you hit those later years, then you're still dealing with a lot of times, if not set up appropriately, things like taxes. All these assets we've accumulated, we don't think about how much is getting cut out later if we've deferred it. Inflation. A lot of times Uncle Sam's decisions and what's going on in the economy can affect our own purchasing power, our ability to have our assets work in our favor. Healthcare is a big thing right now. It's getting a lot more expensive, and just everyday life can be expensive. The fact that we're living longer today means our money's got to last longer. And then something that I don't see happen a lot right now that I've been running into more frequently is we generally don't talk about, especially money. I mean, I'd say lifestyle, but getting more specific, it's almost like a taboo in most of society to talk between generations about money. And I've seen two different roads happen because of that. I mean, the families are really talking about it and setting it up appropriately. Future generations can be in a much better position than if you're not, because indirectly, a lot of times within family, there's going to be weaknesses between generations. So it's either older generation helping younger generation, or vice versa. And, that's unfortunate. It's much more exciting to see when families are kind of aligned where they're able to possibly leverage each other, just mitigate risks. So they know, okay, if one generation passes away, they live the life they wanted to have, and the second generation set up going down the line.
Wow. That's interesting. So you talk about this retirement myth. What solution have you provided for someone that's had this, they've been locked into this myth? Can you share with us how you've actually helped someone overcome this?
Yeah, so we call the solution the lifestyle secret. There are 3 major levels or phases, I would say, to the lifestyle secret. The first part is generally fairly quick, but that's what we just call having, a financial foundation. So we look at primarily money in this particular level just to have a basic foundation as to eliminating risks and understanding what general opportunities are. So just real quickly, there's 4 steps. The first thing is, again, really understanding with absolute clarity what it is that we want our lifestyle to look like. And then from there, really understanding our big why and what we're all about, that tells us more in terms of, okay, what kind of money are we going to need? What kind of time frames do we want to do things in? And then it comes into savings. And I would say that's kind of the bread and butter of really improving a situation right away, is because we know that's where most of the retirement myth really creates challenges up front. So when you have things like debt, well, let's eliminate debt. If, we're paying too much to other parties, living expenses-wise, well, let's look at a budget. Taxes. A lot of times, we're not aware that we can mitigate taxes, understanding codes a little differently. And then another piece of that as well is just understanding opportunity costs. So, there's 100 pennies to a dollar, but if we can make sure that most of those pennies to a dollar are really going towards people's objectives, then we know where to put it and how to align whatever their options are to what's available. And then from there, just mitigating common risks. So, people run into what I call the debt cycle quite a bit, where, debt gets eliminated and eventually get back into more debt and so forth. And there's times where debt's needed. There's good debt and bad debt, of course, but we want to mitigate the need for any kind of bad debt, and have money really work in people's favor. So as simple as it sounds, having an emergency fund. A lot of times positioning is a little off, so generally we want to have more liquid assets than illiquid assets. And then protecting our income and assets. So, worst case scenarios, life is going to happen. We can't control those things. We may take a step back or two, but, it's a bump in the road versus a catastrophe, so we can keep moving forward. That's the foundation. From there, the second level, very simply, is aligning time, money, and passion. So this is where we really get into more about what you want a year to look like, a day to look like, and really talk about the functioning of time and money so we can put a person in position of control and options as to what they do when they wake up to the time they go to bed. And that's how money and time really is educated as far as the functioning of it. And then once that second piece is in place, then, that's really the foundation to a lifestyle. And then it really just comes to kind of getting your oil changed every now and then, taking it to another advanced level. And I just say, it's a constant improvement of optimizing your lifestyle.
Awesome. It sounds like you got a distinct plan and system to obtain that. Appreciate you sharing that with us. So I understand that you were recently published with Jack Canfield and other experts from around the world. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, we recently did hit a bestsellers list, and yeah, it was a great experience being a part of a project with Jack Canfield and some other co-authors that speak the same language, in terms of lifestyle, health, wealth, and really just getting that message out that we can constantly improve what it is that we want to have in life.
Nice. So the title of that book was Road to Success, Volume 2. Today's leading entrepreneurs and professionals reveal their step-by-step systems to help you achieve the health, wealth, and lifestyle you deserve. So you can find that on Amazon.com. And you've also been invited to speak at U Mission Critical at Space Center NASA in Houston in January. So congratulations on that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Tialan. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we're excited to have you at the event, and you can find out more information about that in the notes. So what would be the best way for people to reach out to you and find out more about this retirement myth and how to overcome it?
Well, email is always pretty quick response time. Troy at lifestyleft.com. They can also reach our office at 970-765-7151. We also try to post content pretty often here on social media. So Facebook seems to be where we're at the most. So facebook.com/my name, Troy West, fan page. So you got a number of angles, so we can't hide from you. So whatever is best for people.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being on the show, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Houston at the end of January. And thanks again for that great information.
Yeah, and I look forward to spending some time with you down in Houston, Tialan. I really, really appreciate it. Should be a lot of fun.
Yes, you're welcome. Well, there you have it for this edition of the show. We'll see you the next time. All right, buddy, you did great.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.